So basically the idea of the panel, our GLBTQ issues, BC issues, kind of came about because I was concerned that the issues regarding GLBTQ issues were just issues being addressed by GLC, but kind of bringing together BC student leaders from all over campus. We have representatives from UGBC, we have Noel, we have someone from Boston Council, SAP, all these different leaders all over campus giving their own perspective on GLBTQ issues that aren't just issues addressed by GLC, but they should be issues addressed by all of BC.
The fact that the GLC gala has to be called a gala and not a dance because it implies certain things about homosexual interactions and things like that. I think that those things are some of the deeply problematic parts of how the administration handles this, and that's why that's our biggest obstacle once we can make those small steps into making the BC community more aware and moving forward.
Candidly, I think the biggest obstacle is really just tradition. One of my friends works in the call center, or she used to work in the call center, and she called an old man alumni who said to her, "Do you know that women are allowed to go to Boston College now?" And she said, "Yes, I go here." And I think like something that really bothers me is that opponents usually speak louder than proponents. So I think that, well, I don't know if I can say for sure, but I hope and think that the majority of BC students are allies, but I think the people who are saying insensitive, ignorant things sound louder than the people who are just being good people. So I think just being more vocal about being an ally and being a GLBTQ student will help the administration see where we're at, and just eventually and slowly over time we'll make that progress.
There's a lack of general acknowledgement of the needs of the GLBTQ community when it comes down to clubs and organizations. And I think that can be changed through training programs and working with different members of either GLC or professionals who can come in and talk to students about how do you create a more inclusive environment, a more welcoming environment for students. And I think that that's one of the ways that we can work from the ground up from this, because I think that getting the administration to make those huge steps is going to be really difficult, and I think that we by no means shouldn't push for it, but I think that working on the smaller issues and the smaller steps is another way to confront it during the time when the administration really isn't giving that much leeway.
But I think what has really struck me in regards to the improvement from a policy side of things is the missional aspect of the GLBTQ community, and making the personal connections that allow for people who come from all different walks of life and perspectives of Boston College to begin to empathize with those issues. Because if there's no empathy, there's no student traction. And if there's no student traction, there's no catalyst for reform.
I think if we can really thank Boston College Confessions for doing anything, we can thank it for two things. The first is that it made the administration, the faculty, and staff here at BC aware that these things were actually going on. I don't know if they were choosing not to recognize it or whatever, but it made counseling services more aware, it made women's resources more aware, Boston College Police Department more aware. And I think that's a huge step to take, that the 9,000 faces you interact with every single day are not perfect. On the other end of that, it made the Boston College students more aware as well in the exact same light. I would like to hope that a lot of people knew that what some of those posts were, not just that awful one that occurred 3 weeks ago or however long ago, but all of them in general, where those things were very true life experiences for a lot of people, those that were true, that is. But at the same time, if you didn't recognize that, I hope, again, that was a rather rude wake-up call for you. What does concern me, however, is that it took a Facebook page for our community to come to that realization. And that's why, as a student leader on campus, I'm sure all of you probably recognize this as well, but really just encourage all of you to walk around campus with your eyes open and really paying attention to the interactions and the relationships.
This is something I've learned a little bit at BC. If you take perspective, there's very few things that have stood the test of time with the Catholic Church, other than China, Catholic Church. I don't know, can you think of a third example?
The British monarchy.
But they move at a very specific pace. I mean, it's been they've been around for thousands of years, and the GLBTQ issue isn't new to them now. It's been something that's been discussed even since Vatican II, even a little bit before that. And when you talk to a Jesuit and you really understand where they're coming from, their mentality is not my lifetime. It's like painting their strokes it's putting their strokes on the painting of the Catholic Church. Whether it may be for the 50 years that they're alive or the 100, they're working on something that may take a 300-year process. And yes, I understand that can be frustrating as a layperson, but once you understand that perspective, you can start to appreciate where you see struggle. What we really need to work on is the stigma around certain events that like, oh, it's only for GLBTQ students, or I can't go to that because I'm a straight student, or the conversations that aren't happening, and the people who aren't willing to have these conversations because they feel as if they disagree that they could lose a friendship, or someone would call them out on something that they're not, but in reality, just educating everyone as to what it really means to be a LGBT